As an avid sewer and thrifter, there are some occasions where the stars align and you find absolute gold. I found this while thrifting the other day. It is a vintage kids pattern book with some incredibly weird and cursed creatures in here. Join me today as we attempt some weird patterns from the past, and I attempt to inspire you to make these yourselves and go out there and find some wacky stuff to join in. This book is an absolute treat. I'm so glad I found it. It definitely shows its age, and there are some really cool things in here that are actually quite creepy. This honestly is an absolute find, and there are some truly cursed images in here that we're going to try and make. I've got a selection here of felts and thrifted fabrics, exclusively thrifted fabrics. For example, oh my goodness me, this beauty here, do you see that? I hope you see that. She was 50p. She was 50p, and what a 50p well spent. All of these bits are going to be potential contenders for the characters that I'm going to have a look at today. As we peruse through the pages, I will show you some cursed examples. This book was made, when was it made? This book was made in 1970, so neither me or my mother were alive. This book has stood the test of time through 2 generations of my family, and I'm going to have a look and see, for starters, what options we've got available to us. This is intended for children in the 70s, back when there was no electronics to keep them company and they had to find stuff to do. One of the things that they decided kids would love to make, Humpty Dumpty, or a rendition thereof. He's looking great, and he is a contender today. I also believe that potentially due to copyright laws in the 70s, he is not called Humpty Dumpty. That is my mistake. He is called Humpers Dumpers. But another contender that I had today is not much better. It is this. It is the Lazy Daisy cat. The Lazy Daisy cat is a very unique looking chippy chappy. I think it's definitely got a unique patternage. I would absolutely love to make both of these today, but I think we're going to only have time for one. Other special mentions include this, which is meant to be a friend for your child. So potentially we're going to be making Humpers Dumpers today, and maybe Lazy Daisy cat another time. He sat on the wall, and boy goodness me did he have a fall. So to begin making our spooky friend, I have drawn and cut out some patterns, and the way that I've done that is I've ripped them straight from the book, and I've got some baking grease proof paper out of my cupboard. So I now need to decide what his head is going to be made out of, and I've got this wonderful selection of vintage fabrics as well as loads of felt. But I'm thinking, because I don't want it to be too heavy or busy on the front, because I want those features to stick out, I'm going to use this light vintage fabric, and then on the back I'm going to use this. So we've kind of got like a bit of fun, a little bit of difference right off the bat. When I sew and make stuff that's not puppets, I love different textures and different feels, and the more fabric the better. But I love different textures when I'm sewing, so the more the merrier for me. I'm going to begin by drawing this pattern out. I'm going to do it one on this fabric, and then I'm going to do one on this fabric. This fabric's nice. It's kind of got like these lovely little gold bits inside the red, which is really nice. So I'm going to flip my fabric over, and I'm going to trace and cut out my pattern. I have to say, there is really something fun, and I do love doing it. Whenever I go into a charity shop, I always look for the haberdashery section if they've got one, if it's like a big one. You can find really fun and interesting stuff to make, and I just think if you've started sewing and you're looking for some practice, or you are a sewer and you just want to make something really weird instead of having like making something with loads of pressure on it or a purpose, because this is definitely purposeless, I would recommend just doing it and seeing what you can find, because there are some really cute little things. And the fabric that I found, for the price that I found it, it should also be said that I don't own an iron, so if you see these incredibly creased, there's nothing I can do about it, and it will remain creased for the entire session. I've drawn out my patterns, and I'm now going to cut them out with my fabric scissors. Oh my god. And I was just about to tell you to leave a gap as you cut around it for that seam line, but I accidentally just snipped a whole bit in my circle, but that's not a problem. Everywhere else where I'm not jumping the gun, I am going to try and leave a gap. And now, because this is my front, I'm going to work on the face, and so the face on it before I sew it together. So I'm going to look at the reference image, and I think, what colour felt should I use? I think I should pick something that absolutely categorically does not go together with this, and I think I'm going to pick this sort of like mango-y yellow, and then I think I'm going to go with, I'll go similar to the original, and I will go with a sort of fuchsia-y pink. For that face, I'm just going to get an extra bit of greaseproof paper here, and I'm just going to draw out the rough face that it's got on him, just like that, and then I'm going to cut that out. Okay, so I've got our little facial features, and I'm going to do the eyes in yellow and then the nose and the mouth in pink. On the back of my felt, and you can tell it's the back because it's got a sticker on it, on the back of my felt, I'm just going to draw out the eyes twice. I wonder if there is somebody that I love who I could give this to for Christmas, because I don't want this poor boy to go to waste. And I've got to start thinking about who would really appreciate a Humpers Dumpers of their own. One person can be the lucky owner because I don't want to keep it. I've cut out his features and we'll have a look at how bad this is gonna look. Isn't that nice? Isn't that lovely? Just a lovely, sweet little face. Isn't that... Oh no, isn't that delicious? He's gonna look like he never fell off the wall. So I'm gonna secure his features to his face by getting some thread that are the similar colours, and I'm just gonna do a really quick stitch all the way around the shape and try and get all the bits secured onto his fizzog, which I don't know, hang on, does anyone else say fizzog? Does anyone else? My family, instead of saying the word face, they say fizzog. It's like a foot is a morgar, a face is a fizzog. A tooth is toothy peg. It's kind of like how every family has a different word for the TV remote. Mine was flicker, but it's kind of like that. It's like, I hope it's like that. So I'm just gonna evenly space his eyes quite far apart so that they're borderline untrustworthy. And I'm gonna begin by stitching those in place. Just doing literally like an up and down, in and out stitch around both shapes. Okay, so I've sewn the face on and I'm just gonna tie this off. And the beauty about sewing the face on before you stitch it all together is that we've hidden all of our mess, and at the front it looks really neat. You know, like a vintage clown, it's giving kind of like vintage creepy clown vibes. I think it's actually quite cute to start with. The next step is to make the hands, because the hands have to be sewn into the body of Humpers Dumpers. Hands in lavender might be quite nice and vintage. It says that it wants it to be like a flat thing, so it's not two pieces sewn together. So for that, I can't draw out the pattern. Instead, I'm gonna have to just kind of cut around it as best I can, because basically it wants just one singular flappy bit of felt instead of two. If I had two bits of felt for the hand, then I could cover up my markings, but because it's just one flap, I can't cover up the pen that I'm going to use. But I think this is how a lot of pattern people do it, because a lot of pattern people don't like to draw on their fabric. That's just me being hasty and ridiculous. I think that's the best I'm going to be able to achieve if I can't draw it out, kind of like a little flapper. They're definitely going to be sisters, not twins. I'm just not very good at being neat in anything, and if I have to kind of cut things out instead of drawing them out, I do find it hard to do it well. So this is not my strong suit, but the pattern calls for it, and we don't want to let down Humpers Dumpers. So I've got my two little hands here. They look nothing alike, but it's the best I could do with the circumstances I've been presented with. So I'm gonna put them to one side, and then the next step is to sew the two bits of bodies together, and I'm going to do that inside out so that we get as seamless of a seam line as possible. So I'm going to sew it inside out like that, and then I'm going to leave a gap at the bottom where I'm going to flip it open, and those two bits will be combined together. And as I do that, as I sew it inside, I'm going to put these hands in place like this and sew them on the inside, just like a little sandwich, so that when you open it up, it will reveal them as the sewn in piece. Does that make any sense? So when you want to put hands in a thing that you're sewing inside out, just plop them in the wrong way round, and then once you fold it outside in, it will be right somehow. So now I've pinned it together, the next step is to sew it together, and I'm going to leave a gap at the bottom here, because that's also going to be covered up by the trousers. I'm going to leave a gap at the bottom so that I can turn it outside in when all is said and done. And all I'm going to do is the classic in, out, on the pattern line on each side of the fabric, just bringing it through. And once I have sewn this the entire way around, apart from the gap at the bottom, I shall rejoin you. So I've sewn around the edges, and the time has come to flip him outside in and have a little look at how we're getting on. Oh no. Okay, We can work with it. We can work with it. This is our Humpers Dumpers so far. I've got some stuffing, so I'm just gonna hope that that kind of changes everything, because this is, I mean, we've stayed true to the pattern and we've stayed true to Humpers Dumpers, and that is all we can do. I think this book was the best £2 I've ever spent. He is beginning to look a bit more like an egg though as I stuff him, but I think he's going to need a lot of stuffing to change anything. It's looking a bit more like if you asked a 2-year-old to recall what a fish looks like than actual Humpers Dumpers. It's not finished. I don't know if that's going to make it any better. This might just be one of the worst and the best thing that I've ever made. The next step is some trousers for our Humpers Dumpers, and the pattern here is a bit confusing. It says to draw one of these out but on a fold, so I imagine it means with a piece of fabric folded underneath. So I don't have many options for that in terms of quantity, but I do have this lovely little vintage thing. It kind of looks like it's come straight out of the 90s. It's got assorted vegetables and flowers, and I think that's going to be really nice for his shorts because I don't have another choice. Like the pattern says, I'm going to get my fabric and fold it, and then I'm going to draw my pattern onto the folded fabric so that we get that folded crease as a part of the cutout. I think this is what the pattern is telling me. I'm not very good with pattern following. All right, so I've got my trousers here. I'm going to sew this line together so that we haven't got a foldature, and now it's one singular thing. I'm going to put them on Humpers Dumpers. The pattern calls for it to be secured with something, so I've got this little sort of bit of fabric, this band of fabric. So I'm going to sew the trousers on, but before I do that, I'm going to draw out the feet. So to get the feet, it's the same as the hands. It's going to be one singular flappy piece of felt. I don't think anything can help him at this stage, but I'm going to go with, maybe I'm just in a greeny mood. I'm going to go with a lovely foresty green here, and I'm going to have to do a similar thing of just guessing as I cut out the foot, because I can't draw the foot onto the felt. Just thought of another nickname for a body part that my family use: lugholes for ears. Lugholes for ears. Okay, so I've got 2 feet here, and once again they are sisters, not twins. Now I've got the feet, I'm going to sew these shorts onto his body with this little ribbon on the front. So I've put the trousers on. I think it wants me to just do a stitch in the middle so it looks like trousers, but it's not. So I think first I'm going to do that stitch in the middle so that it looks like trousers, and then I think it wants me to stuff the legs and add the feet at the end as a last resort. So now I've gone all the way down, I'm just going to go all the way back up to make that line a bit more definitive. Okay, and now I've done that, I'm just going to stuff the legs a little bit, and then I'm going to put his feet in, and then I believe it calls for frayed trouser edges, which will be interesting. Okay, so the stitch in the middle has kind of made it look like trousers, and I'm going to put the feet on the end and sew them in place. But before I do that, it says to just get your scissors and just do this all the way around, cut little lines into it, I guess. I'm going to do what it says. I'm going to do what it says and just fray the fabric all the way around for some reason. I frayed around the edges, and I'm going to put my feet in. Where's my big toe? I'm going to put my feet in, and then I'm going to sew it in place with the stuffing inside, hopefully, kind of like that situation. So I'm going to sew this all together, and then I will get back to you with the results. So the reveal is here. This is my take on the classic Humpers Dumpers by whoever this book was written by. Here he is, the big reveal. He is terrible, and I actually tried. I followed the pattern to a T, and this is what it is. In some ways he has a sense of whimsy, but in other ways he is a sack of crap. So let me know what you think down below. I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy yourself and you found it relaxing in any way, then please subscribe and ring that bell so that you can be told when I next upload another session, which hopefully will be making something a bit better than this. But I thought it was good to give it a go, and it's definitely a sign to have a little bit of fun and see what you can find in the charity shops, because these vintage patterns, my goodness me, they hold nothing back, and this was a treat. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.